expect there may be some in the audience who are interested in this. We will make copies available either by the web page or they can come by our office and we'll get the information out to you. The way that we are recommending is very similar to or identical to the alternative 2 from the 2003 CTP. And that alignment, again, uses existing Lester Road down to its termination at Ebenezer Church Road. And at that point, we would improve that intersection so you have essentially continuous flow on Lester as it merges into Ebenezer Church heading east. It would follow the Ebenezer Church Road alignment until Redwine, and at that point it crosses Redwine Road and you begin new construction that would approach Perry Creek, cross over Perry Creek, and then work its way down to Harbor. There's 2 or 3 pretty large tracts of land used for agricultural purposes right now, and it's through that land that you have it heading south into Harbor Road. The advantages, or I wouldn't say advantages, but some of the noteworthy points associated with this alignment is that it does provide new capacity. We feel it provides a very efficient means to get between State Route 85 and State Route 54. The project length is about 4.2 miles, of which about 2 miles consist of new road construction. This alignment requires the construction of 1 new bridge and the either major rehabilitation or replacement of the existing Ebenezer Church Road Bridge over Whitewater. There's good potential for access management because there's such a large amount of new construction. Obviously, the driveways on Lester and Ebenezer we would have to work with and maintain. We used undeveloped land to the greatest extent possible. Anytime you have a project of this magnitude, it's going to have impacts, but we feel like this option compared to some of the others we looked at minimizes those. The environmental impacts of this option are very similar in magnitude to the other ones we looked at. And if you consider the fact that the Ebenezer Church Road Bridge has to be rebuilt at some point, whether it's part of this project or not, then it stacks up very favorably in terms of its total impact environmentally. This alignment, as I said, would have a pretty substantial improvement or change to the existing intersection of Lester Road and Ebenezer Church. We would make the bypass essentially a through road at that point and have Ebenezer Church tie into it. But it only has 1 intersection with Redwine Road as opposed to some others that actually utilize Redwine. We would have a combined traffic for a second, which we thought was undesirable. The type of intersection at Redwine and the bypass, if this concept is approved, we don't know at this point. We would do a traffic study to determine the most efficient means of that. And the last point I think is noteworthy is this alignment does, in fact, match one of the 2 alternatives drawn in the 2003 plan. It is not by any means a requirement that as a project is designed, it follows the schematic that's provided in CTP. I know all too well those are really just ideas thrown out there to kind of get the thought process going. But in this case, if it does follow that, it is a benefit if there are citizens who have made decisions based on some of those planning documents that this alignment is consistent with what has been on the books for several years. Obviously, we'll take any questions you have, but I would like to close by outlining what exactly we're asking of the board. And that is, the term I'm using here is this is a concept alignment, which to me means we had this idea for the project, but before we can do anything, we need to have some agreement on exactly what the project is and about where it's going. So that's what we're trying to get agreement on. If the board were to agree and approve this, we are asking for approval to move forward on design up to what I call a preliminary design stage. That's typically about 30% completion of design. Some of the key components that I think need to be done between now and that 30% completion stage. One is a traffic study. The traffic study would serve a few purposes. One, it would project traffic volumes on the road to ensure, we're designing this as a 2-lane road consistent with the other portions of the bypass. We want to assure ourselves that that would be sufficient in the long term. 30 years from now, we regret not having certain areas able to handle higher capacity if needed. Two, we want to know what impacts this may have on intersecting roads. The one in particular I'm concerned about is Red Wine. That is a busy road unto itself, and we don't want to create a problem with this project. And the third would be to study and make recommendations on the intersections. What is the most effective way to handle those? A fourth component of the traffic study, this is something that one of the more popular or more common requests I've received, and that is, in fact, one gentleman alluded to it earlier today, what are we going to do with the portion of the bypass right near those school zones and inside the Fayetteville city limits where you have higher density and higher congestion areas? My best answer to that is early on, right now as part of the traffic study, let's look at some ideas. I've met with both of the principals, talked with them a few times and met with them once. They're interested in seeing what ideas we could have to help provide a safe area in there as school is coming in and letting out. I've lost my train here. So we're asking for a traffic study and then to complete design to a preliminary design stage. That would include all necessary field investigations to quantify the impacts, both the properties, structures, the environment, and it would include a preliminary level cost estimate and project schedule. And at that point, we would come back before the board, present that information, and if the numbers are favorable, ask permission to move forward to the final.
You mentioned something about the schools. Was that some comments you had to make about schools?
It was to the extent that I think my recommendation is we do this traffic study up front, that it should include a special emphasis on looking at that school zone and see what sort of controls are appropriate to ensure we have safety in that area.
Good to include in that study either a bridge or a tunnel or something to get the people from one side of the road to the other.
And that would be the ultimate in safety. I offhand don't have a sense on the demand for crossing the street right there, otherwise I assume it's
really why. I'm just saying that in your study, if you need to look at that, I would urge you to include those items in there.
I think we would open it up kind of consider all options, and I've talked with several people in that area who are pretty active in the community that asked to be involved in that type of initial study effort. So I maybe zoom in even a little bit more. Good, 120 now. I wish I knew my street names and subdivision names better to help people get oriented, but what you see there is Bennett's Middle School. The page is essentially kind of heading in the northwest direction. The project would start right where the new pavement for the work on phase 1 ended. And it would just head south following Lester Road if you just want to kind of scroll your way down.
You're in Stonebriar there. Stonebriar West, Beaver Brook, Stonebriar Place, Stonebriar West.
What does the yellow hatch indicate before you leave that area?
The yellow hatch,
That's right of way for the golf cart, existing golf cart path.
we believe that's existing City of Fayetteville right-of-way for golf cart path or open area, buffer type area for the.
Are you saying the path is there or not there?
The path is there.
That is there.
Okay.
Right there, as we leave the city limits, is probably the first most pronounced potential improvement or jog of Lester Road to try to straighten it out to improve the safety. As we head south, we're following the alignment as much as we can. Have an intersection improvement there with Davis Road.